Hello and welcome to Chaps Chatting Champs episode 2. Good morning, Brant.
Good morning, Josh, and good morning, everybody. Josh, did you know, according to Board Game Geek, Marvel Champions is published in 10 different languages, including Korean, German, Turkish, Czech, French, English, and Chinese, among others.
Oh, I think if I had to guess, I would have assumed it's more, but I also don't know the first thing about board game localization and how many languages they are typically translated into. So 10 sounds like a nice number. I'm glad there's that many people that have access to it.
Yeah, it'd actually be interesting for people who are watching or listening. If you know someone who has the game in a different language, sorry, other than English, let us know.
And the only thing I really have ever come across with board game localizations is often people will ask questions about cards that ultimately ended up getting translated incorrectly. And
Mm.
so they were playing with the card didn't work quite the way that it was supposed to. But I can't even imagine there's so much text in these games. How do you, man, that's a lot of translation work.
It's a lot, but it's cool to know that people are playing it all around the world.
Yes, very, very cool.
Nice. Well, we're going to get into our 8-minute chat as we do here. This is just a short episode we do each week, and we have a fun fact for you. And then we'll do our 8-minute chat. I'm literally going to put a timer on, and then we will finish with this or that. And Josh, I believe you have some this or that prepared for me this week, correct?
I sure do.
All right. So we are going to talk about the perfect game, Josh. What would the
Mm,
perfect game be to you, right? Is it you wake up early in the morning, you got a pot of coffee on, the
yes,
kitchen counter
yes.
or table is clear. Maybe you prepared it the night before, knowing you had a day off, right? Whatever it is. Maybe it's late night. Maybe you have an adult beverage near you, something like that, right? And everyone's gone to bed and it's relaxing and it's a solo game. Or maybe people are more like me and it's at a store or a convention or the Con of Heroes, and there's way too many people around. You can't possibly get to play a game with all of them, but there's just a buzz in the room of all people playing Marvel Champions, right? So those could be some of the set the scene for what it is. What do you think, Josh? Which one of those atmospheres do you think you'd prefer?
Well, out of those options, certainly Con of Heroes is the one that I would love to experience as often as possible. But obviously, that's a once a year thing, though it is coming soon. I'm getting very, very excited for that. But for me, out of the ones that are far more likely to happen on a semi regular basis, would be early in the morning. Everybody's not up yet. I tend to get up very, very early to do channel stuff anyway. Well, I have to. It's pretty much the only time I can do it. And so, yeah, pot of coffee, have the game ready to go, have the deck built the night before. That sounds like a dream.
Yeah, absolutely. So then we got to think about maybe hero matchups, or are you playing one or two handed, right? And what villains are you playing, or maybe kind of just the style of what it is, right? We kind of talk about standard or expert, which is kind of preferred for people. Heroes, of course, I'm a huge Rocket Raccoon fan, so in a perfect game, Rocket's going to be part of the game for me. I assume Wasp for you might be part of the game.
Well, possibly for sure. I've played so much Wasp. It's funny. I was thinking, yeah, matchup is the key word there. And, I've been thinking a lot about matchups lately, not trying to plug my stuff, but, I put out that perfect matchups last week. And I have been playing a lot of those in what spare time I have. And I think the matchup is so, so key to having the game you really want to have. And that's for me. When I think of the perfect matchup, it's a hero and a villain that complement each other, where the hero is going to get to do at least most of what it wants to do,
Hmm.
but the villain is also completely, able to do what they want to do. I tried to make as many of those matchups in that video where both the hero and the villain got to do what they wanted. I know some people find it really interesting to put themselves in a situation where, the hero is really, really challenged. Maybe the matchup is terrible for the hero and they have to find a way to win. I could see how that would be fun, but that would probably be the furthest thing from my perfect game. I
Right.
want the hero, I play the game to see what the hero can do and to play all their cool cards and do all their cool combos. But I also want the villain to be able to challenge me, not too much. I'm never looking for anything crazy hard, but enough that I have to think, to make interesting choices. and to be able to push forward. So yeah, I think matchup is a huge key to the perfect game.
It's interesting kind of going through that. I've done a lot of videos with like the rush strategy and everything like that, and obviously been a big proponent of doing all that. But to me, the perfect game would actually be I'm getting built. I'm getting set up. The deck is playing as I planned it, right? In my head, I had this idea of how it would set up, and I'm finally on that third deck pass. I've gone through my deck twice, and now my deck is very thinned. It's ready to go. The whole time my deck has been able to counter the villain, whatever they're trying to do. Kind of what you're saying, the reverse. I actually wouldn't want it to be so like Rocket versus Ultron, for example. It's kind of easy. Like he
Mhm.
kind of counters him too easily. So I want kind of those clever decisions that I made to counter the villain. So with Rocket, I'd like the perfect amount of thwarting, and then I can use a think fast to confuse them and flip down in a turn, so I can build up for a giant hand of cards. That kind of thing would be really fun. And I'm getting to that third deck pass, and finally I can flip that villain and just one shot him down on that final stage. That sounds so exciting to me that I've set up the game, the combos are working, the board state is gigantic, and I've kind of got the upper hand on the villain at this point.
Yeah, I think we're in very similar positions. I'm the same way. I love to build out my board. I love the game to last long enough that I've had time, yeah, 2 or 3 deck passes where you've really been able to get all your cool stuff on the table, and then all the hands you're drawing are just full of useful cards. And but you don't want the game to go too long to where it starts to feel like a bit of a slog. You feel like you've got the game in hand, and then something Shadowcat's obligation comes out, and suddenly you're shut down for 2 turns, or you get seduced or something like that. That's
Hmm.
where the length becomes a real issue, and you want that perfect game to end right when it's supposed to. You want it to have time to crescendo, but not outlast its welcome.
Yeah. And in terms of, I find myself when I play solo, I like a lot of two handed because I like to create decks that work together and play off of each other. So I enjoy doing that a lot. I certainly play solo as well and appreciate that. But again, when I'm thinking about it, I'd like to have a group of people around the table with me where we have kind of gotten everything together. I think I've said it multiple times in places, but I would look forward to Con of Heroes with four X-Men heroes on the table, and
Mm,
everybody's just tossing their X-Men supports to the center of the table because anybody can use them, any player
mhm.
can use them. And I love that idea of just like, man, this is a shared pool. We are the X-Men team. I love that idea.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely if you're gonna play 4 players, and that's definitely another element of the perfect game is probably not solo as much as it would be. I don't even know if I would say it'd be the perfect game for me because I do enjoy 2-player or more when I get the chance more than I do solo. Solo is more of a necessity, though I do love it and defend it very often when
You
people.
don't have to defend it.
So the question of solo or multiplayer definitely would affect the perfect game. Like for me, I play solo, but that's really more of a necessity than a choice. I love to play multiplayer when I can, though I do love solo dearly. But I think for me, the perfect game would ultimately be 2 players, like you say, 2 decks that work very well off of each other. That is the way to go. I had a ton of fun playing all the 4-player games at Con of Heroes. They are obviously long, but it's a social situation, so it's totally fine if you're there playing a really long game. And the idea of having 4 decks that play really well together, thematically and mechanically, does sound amazing.
So of course the perfect game really is more than one, right?
Yeah,
A
yeah.
session where you can sit down with friends and maybe play more than one game, or you're waking up in the morning with that pot of coffee and it's like, I have time for another game. This is so exciting, right? So really that's the best answer to that. We're out of time, but I'll ask you one more question. What about campaigns versus just kind of playing one-off villains?
I've always just done one-off villains. For me, every time I sit down to play champions, I build up a new deck and just play it once or twice, and then I'm already on to the next deck. So, having played, I've only ever played through that one campaign I did on my channel where I played through the campaign contest winner.
Mm.
I've still yet to fully complete an official campaign, but that one did make me want to. And whenever I get around to starting that multiverse progression saga, I made such a big noise out of, but have not been able to get to. Campaign play is a part of that, and I'm really excited to dive into those.
We're still just building hype, Josh. We're still just building
Yeah,
hype.
it's just so much hype building.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of the same to you. I will say once I get a box, I tend to jump into the campaign, play the pre-con decks, maybe tweak the pre-con decks as I'm playing, by a card or two or three.
Mhm,
But I really enjoyed playing the campaign content because it's kind of more that the designers came up with. But
mhm.
after that, I'm pretty happy to go back and play one-offs and kind of the variety is the spice of the game for me. I want a different hero. I don't necessarily want an X-Men to match up with the Sentinel villains. I'm happy to play an Avenger fighting a Sentinel, those
Right.
kind of things.
Yeah. Yeah, I love the idea of the campaigns. For me, it's more of a time issue. To sit down and play 5 games in a row with the same hero, that's probably gonna be over the span of a few days or maybe even a week and a half or so, just how often I get to play. And by then, I'm definitely much more interested in playing a different hero than playing, Captain
Right.
America for the 4th or 5th time in a row.
Well,
So,
Josh, what I'd love to do is hear from the people who are watching and listening. Tell us about your perfect game. What time of day is it? What's the atmosphere? Who are you playing with? What are the heroes? What are the villains? What are you looking to do to make a perfect game of Marvel Champions?
yes, let us know in the comments below. Did that sound YouTubey enough?
And don't forget to like and subscribe.
That's right. Smash that like button. Let that be the only time I ever say that on my channel. All right. Well, thank you for that topic, Brant. And
No problem.
now I have a this or that for you.
Okay,
So let me pull up my notes here. So I've got 10 very rapid fire questions to test your gut reactions. All right. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Leadership or justice?
Justice.
Nick Fury or Professor X?
Nick Fury.
Goonies or Godfather?
Goonies.
Okay. Rush or build? I guess you just kind of talked about that.
It's build, but that is a tough call. I love the rush. I'd love to see more people playing it.
Yeah. Uwe Rosenberg or Eric Lang? I
Uwe
know your
Rosenberg.
board game tastes. Okay, cool, cool. Me too. Dog Lang's great. Collector one or collector two?
Collector 2.
The only correct answer. Transformers or turtles?
Man. Oh, are we allowed to do ties? Oh, man.
Really
I'm going to
nice.
go Ninja Turtles.
Cool, cool. I'm a Transformers guy, but I did love the turtles. Skilled strike or piercing strike?
Skilled Strike.
Yeah, makes sense with the rush. All right, for food, Chinese or Indian?
Chinese.
And Mad Titan Shadow or Mutant Genesis?
Hmm. Uh, Mad Titan Shadow.
Oh, okay, okay. I can see that. Well, I think that is going to do it for episode 2 of Chaps Chatting Champs. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody, and have a great week, Brant.
Have a great week, Josh.
And have a great week, everybody. We'll see you next week.